Welcome to the Fresh and Fired Up podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Emily Marshall, here to help you function at your best so you can flourish in your health, family, and business. Let's get fired up. And today is an interview episode featuring Josie Stevens. I'm thrilled to have her. We actually met through Instagram and now we're meeting in person, I guess still on Zoom, but we get the idea. I'm thankful to have her here. She's a fitness coach and performance trainer, former Division I soccer player. She's a new mom, so I'm excited to hear about that more. And she helps time-crunched women get fit at home with her Strong for Life monthly workouts. Did I get that right? Strong for Life, is that what it's called?
It is athletic longevity, but
I feel like I mixed it up. Yes,
same thing.
You. Athletic longevity. I love it because we are going to talk about maximizing our longevity and how we feel during our workouts as we get more into this episode. So you can find her on Instagram at JevityFit. I will put that in the show notes as well. So yeah, I just want to welcome you, Josie. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. It's just so nice to talk to you. Yeah, in person, online.
Yeah, it's good to get to know each other more. I've been following your media for a while. If you don't follow her, you should. She's always got like the best form in her exercises. And it's a great visual to if you're adding in supplementary things to your workout or looking for a full workout program. She is a great reference for you. But I want you to tell us more about it. So give us a bit more detail on your background, some of your journey from being an athlete to now where you are as a fitness coach and performance trainer.
Cool. I'll give you the short version. If you're interested, let me know. I can go into more detail. But I grew up playing soccer pretty competitively. I ended up playing Division I in college. I got a marketing degree, but outside of that, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. A lot of the girls on my team were so passionate about soccer that they're like, "This is what I want to do professionally. I want to go on to do this." And I was like, you know what? I think I'm good. I'm good with soccer. But at the same time, I really did start becoming much more interested in fitness. I began to see this connection between how I trained and my performance on the field, which was just a super interesting thing to see. I could see how good I actually could get at soccer purely through training my athleticism without actually getting good at soccer, which is just an interesting concept. It really started to become this fun strategy game for myself. I loved seeing how my body would adapt to the different demands I put on it. My senior year, I developed this gut health issue, which impacted my life pretty significantly. I lost a lot of weight. Doctors didn't really have a good answer for me, and my health really started to spiral. Eventually, I got to the point of being frustrated with doctors that I took kind of matters into my own hands. And I took a similar approach to how I had in the past with soccer, where I was like, how can I change my current lifestyle, diet, training in order for my body to adapt for the better? And that was pretty significant for me to learn, because I know there's a lot of people out there, especially former athletes, that know how to train to get in really good shape, but only in that one type of way, going from 0 to 60 with no in between. But being able to adapt my health and fitness to improve my living situation on a daily basis was sort of a light bulb for me that made fitness a lifelong passion, and why I'm in the industry I am today. And it's definitely been a tool I've used while being pregnant this past year, and constantly adapting the way I have to move or the way I work out.
Yeah, isn't that such an amazing journey? Well, first of all, congrats on your new baby.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Yeah, before we started recording, you told me he's 8 months old now. What's his name?
Yep. Jonas.
Oh, I like that. That's awesome. So
Yeah.
so tell us more about that. Like some of the things you can share some of your personal journey if you'd like, the adapting your movement patterns and how that went during pregnancy. And then I'd love to dive into how it maybe if you had any changes in how you viewed certain things. And now that you
Yeah.
are postpartum as well, I feel like we could talk about that whole spectrum.
Totally. So ironically, before I got pregnant, I was pre-postnatal certified, and I trained plenty of pregnant women. So I felt like I really had a great idea going into my pregnancy. I was like, I know exactly what to do. This is going to be a breeze. I'm super strong. I've been training. I was at my top shape, best shape I've ever been in my life. And I was like, oh, carrying a watermelon on my stomach for 9 months is going to be easy breezy. I was shocked the first trimester of how sick and fatigued and exhausted I was. I had never really had too many motivational problems working out, but I really couldn't get off the couch that first trimester. And I wasn't even super sick, but just even going for walks and stuff was a huge feat. And I'm sure a lot of other women feel the same. And looking back, feel bad for the women I trained previously, not fully understanding how tired they were at the time. So that was the biggest change right off the bat, was taking it easy that first trimester. And I definitely leaned into that very quickly, which was good, but something I was not expecting.
Yeah, and that it just drives your empathy and compassion up, right?
Oh yeah. No, I had plenty of women trying to like cancel last second, headaches, whatnot, and I'm used to that. But I was like, oh, this wasn't just one of those fake excuses. They really were going through it.
Yeah, I know. Well, and it's interesting because everyone's body processes things differently, but it's amazing how powerful hormones are, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it affects you. Yeah, there's plenty. I felt like I was going through a second puberty that whole process.
Right. Well, it's so I was wanting to talk to a little bit more about, yes, that fatigue through the first trimester, and then some of the adaptations you may have found really helpful as your watermelon grew or grew in your
Yeah.
baby grew into a watermelon. So tell
Yeah,
us a little bit
so
more about that.
totally. That first trimester, the biggest thing I did with my training was I just took a huge step back. I incorporated a lot more tempo lifts. I kind of took all the weight off the bar and just went into an eccentric squat, super low, super slow going down, fast coming up, just trying to keep my muscles used to that movement. So hopefully they wouldn't completely atrophy at the end of the 9 months. And that does make a huge difference. I think people don't realize you only really need 2 times a week, 30 minutes of strength training to maintain that muscle. You don't need a ton to be maintaining muscle throughout. So it was just a huge for me to find that motivation, just to find a little bit of time to do that. Um, it is interesting because nothing's contraindicated otherwise during that first trimester. So I did have in my head, like, oh, I want to lift heavy. I want to be doing my core exercises, keep my core strong. So when I have to stop doing core in the second trimester, but it was just good for me to take it easy, try and maintain as much strength as I could during that time. Um, and that is something, yeah, that I suggest every newly pregnant woman to do that first trimester. Even I unless you're feeling great, I always tell people, like, this isn't like, you don't have to reduce volume if you're feeling phenomenal and you want to keep going 100%. All for it. Go for it.
Yeah, that's how I was for my first. My first pregnancy was like I just kept going full bore. I actually I learned a good life lesson in the first so I was 3 months pregnant, and of course I'm feeling great and I'm like, "Oh, whatever, my stomach's not even that big. I'm just doing the things I always do." So we're at this pool party and I throw which is like in chiropractic college because I had my first at the end of my chiropractic degree. And I throw this like front layout full twisting flip thing off the diving board, like in full gymnast fashion. And I just feel like rip. And I'm like, oh, my abs just tore apart. Just cause it wasn't that my belly
Oh
was
my
that big.
God.
I know, but my hormones had changed, right? And I remember
Yeah.
getting out of the pool and I was like feeling, and I was like, oh no, oh no. And then I was crying later in the day. I'm like crying, after to my husband, like, I've ruined my abs forever. My belly
Oh, what
button's
a
popping out.
nightmare.
I know. And so they're still like, there was a big split. And I've had 4 kids since then. And I've brought them back together a lot, like with my exercises. It's amazing, actually, how much better they are, like without being
Yeah.
surgically put back together. You can make it better, but it's still
Yeah.
not the same as it
Oh
was.
yeah. Yeah. No, that's what I was gonna say too. Going into the second trimester, it is when you want to start being a little bit more aware. I even noticed when I stopped doing chin ups and pull ups my second trimester because I could start feeling that coning and doming at the stomach, and I was like, oh, I know women who have done pull ups throughout their whole pregnancy, but not me because my core just can't seem to handle it. So it is so different for everyone. Yeah, and
Well,
it's just good to be aware and yeah,
you know
not
what's
be.
funny is like I actually loved when I was because I like powerlifting and I love when I start to gain weight during pregnancy. I'm like, oh man, I can throw up like add an extra 25 pounds. I remember like pulling up 255 in my deadlift, like it wasn't that hard because I had like more body weight
Oh,
to throw
yeah.
behind it. I'm
Oh,
just
yeah, I've
like,
known women to PR in their second trimester, it's
yes.
nuts. Yeah, absolutely crazy.
But it's good to be body aware and then also have fun with it, right? And if you have that energy, but if you're totally exhausted, give yourself the freedom to be like, okay, your body needs rest. You are building another human.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think adapting to where you're at is the most important thing for sure.
And then how did you find once you had your baby? Like where are you at now? Because you're only 8 months out. Like what has been your like when did you start training again? When do you recommend to other moms to start training again?
Yeah, it is a controversial subject, I think, because they say you don't work out 6 weeks postpartum. But even my doctor was like, kind of like with a wink, like, you can move a little bit. And I think they say that because with a baby, you're going to have to be moving. You're going to have to squat down to get your baby. So things like that. I think some women are scared to move at all right after giving birth. I started doing very light body weight squats and stuff about 2 or 3 weeks postpartum just to get myself moving again. I think it was important to just regain that strength. The biggest thing definitely was the core. I definitely felt super unstable in the middle. And it was interesting because I felt more unstable than I had even pregnancy, because during pregnancy, it kind of feels like you have a cast on that middle part the entire
Mhm.
time. So I went to even do like my first broad jump, I think 6 weeks postpartum, being like, all right, I'm going to take it easy with the core, but I know my legs are super strong. I'm going to try and do like a real small little broad jump. And I immediately felt so wobbly and unstable. And I was like, oh, my core is just not there. I have to take it real slow because even though it's not a core exercise, every exercise involves the core. So you have to
Yes.
take it super slow with that. I um, did a lot of dead bugs, a lot of like a quadruped where you kind of tuck the pelvis in, engage that core. Um, I've learned a lot about the transverse abdominis, which is known as like the core set of the core. And that was cool because I've heard that previously, but I really understand what they mean now. Where, yeah, you have that separation between the abs and it's not going to be as strong anymore. So you have to really work that deep inner core to kind of bring that lower belly back in to where it was. And if you don't, then yeah, it's just going to continue to be weak and you're going to have that low back pain and all these other problems are going to come from it.
Yeah, and it's amazing when you understand the anatomy, right? Of the transverse abdominis, all the abdominal muscles, but then how they really like wrap right down around into the pelvic floor. So you think
Oh, yeah.
about, a lot of people think pelvic floor issues after pregnancy. And I mean, many women can have them in different forms, but it's all so intricately related and attached.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't realize, yeah, how an interconnected system it really is.
Yeah, and I feel like it's different for everyone too, as far as how much strength they have in their lower abdominal area, like you said. But then with the pelvic floor, I think so often women like the best they get is like, okay, do your Kegels. But
Oh,
there's so
yeah.
right? But it's like there's so much more you can do than that. And there is hope if you've had a child or multiple children. I know many people who struggle with feeling like they're going to pee, or even like they'll do an exercise or they'll jump, or like they can't do their aerobics class anymore or go on a trampoline because now they're peeing themselves. That's a huge issue that I don't think
Oh
gets
yeah.
talked about enough. I
Yeah.
never had that issue. I always really worked pelvic floor and core all the way through, and then continued on after as well. And after 4 children, I mean, I can still do my flips on trampolines and be
Oh,
fine.
that's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I
yeah,
know.
towards the end of my pregnancy, yeah, that was definitely becoming a problem for me where I got worried enough that I went to a pelvic floor specialist, which I recommend to everyone because I think that was huge because right after giving birth, I was great. I was nervous that I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to jump or run again.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's been perfectly fine. So
that's great.
definitely catching it early on is a big
Well,
step.
and the encouragement is it's never too late, right? Like my youngest is 3. You have an 8-month-old. There's if you're listening to this and yes, you had kids, but now, you've got 18-year-olds or whatever or older, and you've like, "Oh, shoot, I've had pelvic floor and abdominal issues all along ever since." It's not too late to go to a pelvic floor therapist. They're going to help a ton. Get a trainer like yourself, right, Josie? It's like you can
Mhm.
help to re-strengthen that core. It doesn't matter how long it's been. I mean, it might be a tough road and journey of regaining that strength, but it is possible. I think that's a
Oh,
hugely
yeah.
hopeful message for women, right?
Oh, yeah. No, that's the same thing I say, working out before pregnancy. It's yeah, ideally, you wanna work out before you get pregnant, but if you're already pregnant, there's no time too late to start working out.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey so far. I want to shift a little bit more towards the longevity side with mobility and functional fitness. All these terms that get thrown around. You put a lot of this in your content and you seem to like love this area. So what do you love about it? How does this help people with their fitness journey?
Yeah, it's funny because, a lot of people do not like the term functional fitness because they're like, "It doesn't mean anything, it's very broad," and that's why I like it because it is broad. It's functional fitness is gonna help you in your functional daily life to be a human, and that depends on whatever you are trying to do. So I love to focus on longevity and function. And that's why I promote myself as a performance coach. And a lot of people only associate that with athletes, but I think everybody is performing every day for their daily life. Everybody should be training for performance and longevity. Everyone needs to still be able to move fast or jump, even though they don't think they might. They don't know if they might kind of miss a step down the stairs and they could catch themselves. So that's kind of what I think about when I'm training for longevity and performance. I think uh, it's anti-aging, and the more we strength train and move in that way, we're gonna maintain that throughout our entire lives.
Yeah, and it's gonna help your overall health. I think about from a I agree completely, first of all. And second of all, from a chiropractor perspective, the number of people who come in with back pain, pelvic pain, neck pain, and it's from some issue with their nerves like discs or nerve health, and you start strengthening the area around, like, yes, sometimes the spine is fixated and or your pelvic is just, you're needing adjustments that are going to help the joints move more fluidly, take and get the nervous system working properly. But then when you strengthen, it makes it so that you don't need to get adjusted as much. That's just from a chiropractic perspective, right?
Oh
You're
yeah,
able to maintain. So I think visits to any doctor, you're going to have less of them if you're maintaining your strength, the muscle in your body. If you have more of that muscle, it's gonna make so many other health issues disappear for you. Not to say you won't be sore, right?
oh
You're gonna
yeah,
be sore sometimes, but that's totally different than debilitating, radiating nerve pain, that sort of thing. So I'm
yeah.
just
No, I
affirming
think
you.
having the more muscle mass you have on your body, it improves everything drastically. Like it's absolutely crazy what strength training and building that muscle mass can do.
Yeah, metabolically and hormonally as well. It's huge.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
So
the
what
biggest thing I say with postnatal women is I think we talked about like the very fresh step of yeah, strengthening the core back, kind of coming back really slow. You have to find that connection with your body again. But after that, maybe like 10 weeks, 20 weeks postpartum, I think I still see a lot of women using those light weights and the aerobic style workouts, being like, okay, now it's time for me to get back in shape. And it's like, we need to start lifting heavy now. Now it's time that you've regained that initial strength. You're healed. You're good. Now we have to actually build up that metabolism again. And,
Yeah.
and it helps with that longevity down the road.
Totally. And it's always important to keep that long-term vision in mind, right? I just made a post the other day about on my stories on Instagram, just being like, I am 3 years out, right? I have a well, he's actually more like a 3.5-year-old now. And I've been back to really committed heavy lifting for 18, 19 months. After having him, I started more with like walking, yoga, light weights, like you said. And that was just kind of life phase for us, figuring out, wanting to get to a gym, but not really working it out in the schedule. So since I've been going early in the mornings for the last 19 months, it drove home the point that I didn't get as well after my first 3 pregnancies, where I'd always jump right in and I'd be like, well, I could lift 275 pounds before. I'm going to start back at 225. Like I would drop
Mhm.
it down, but it would still be really heavy. And I would try to dive in at that point and then I would injure myself. So this
Yeah.
time, I mean, I guess I'm a slow learner, but this time I was like, no, I'm going to build like over time, adding, 5 pounds at a time. Sometimes it's making a jump from, for the longest time for my deadlift, I was at like 240 and then it was like 241, 242, for
Yeah.
like just small increments. And I've been able to now build back almost to what I was when I was a competitive athlete. Like the other day,
Wow. That's amazing.
I benched 162 the other day.
Yeah.
And when I was a
Good for you.
competitive athlete, my bench was 165. So I got 3 pounds to
Wow.
go to be back to
Yeah,
like,
you got it.
yeah, Team Canada status. It's coming. But the point of that, of what I'm saying is I've been able to do it pain free. Whereas I've had points where I've had like tweaks to a re-injury, but nothing like after my second and third babies specifically. I jumped in way too heavy, way too fast, and I really injured myself. And then it put me back. Like I was out of it for a while, just trying to recover. So I think it's treading that line, right? Of like, it doesn't need, yes, start lifting heavy, but it doesn't need to be you don't need to rush the
Oh, no.
process,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Same thing happened to me. It's hard to even connect all the different things going on because I slowly started raising the weights and I thought I was doing a great job with that. I was like, my legs are super strong. I got to a point in my squat where I'm like, oh, shoot, my low back is killing me. And I
Right.
didn't have low back pain ever. My entire pregnancy, no low back pain. I'm like, I can't believe all times now I'm having this low back pain. And I just realized my legs are a lot stronger than my core is at this point, and I have to wait it out and find that balance between my core and my legs until the core is ready to handle that load on my back. And just that awareness and slow progression is so important, definitely postpartum.
Yeah, and being like I guess the psychological side too, right? Being kind to yourself and patient, especially if you're a previous competitive athlete. We can both speak to this because you
Yes.
always want to be performing at this like high level, right? And it's not that you're not. It's like if you really think about it, you are now primary provider for maintaining life of this child, right? Whether it's like they're in your stomach or now you're breastfeeding them or you're just carrying them around and tending to them and getting up at night. It's like that in and of itself requires a high level of performance. Like you said,
Yeah.
right? For life.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think about all the things I do each morning in my list that I'm like, when I'm doing my shoulder press, I'm now throwing my baby up in the air to make him laugh. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, yeah, my shoulders, I'm glad they're this strong to do this every day.
Yeah. And then as they grow and you want to go for hikes, you start carrying them in the hiker packs and you're like,
Oh,
"Oh,
I've
dude."
already been doing that.
Right?
Yeah, it's heavy. Yep. It's getting me.
It's like the progressive load training is as they grow. It's
Yeah.
perfect. It's
Oh,
built in.
yeah, it's perfect built in. Yep.
So what would you find? I mean, we've both spoke some to our own stories, but have you noticed trends in some of the most common challenges that you help your clients with?
Yeah, pregnant clients or overall,
Either you
general
could
pop?
start with pregnant, postpartum, or you could say general.
I would say the pregnant clients is, yeah, just the energy throughout. I think it's finding that balance, like we said, between lifting either too heavy or going too light, and just going for walks and continuing to move throughout that pregnancy, um, and being aware of that core and that abdominal separation is a big one. I think a lot of people don't realize how it's not necessarily super uncomfortable or super noticeable, that coning and doming in the stomach. I think even for me, if I wasn't super aware of it, I'd be like, oh, this feels fine. Let me just keep doing my leg raises. I don't care that my stomach's in this triangle shape. I'm going to keep going. I know a lot of people that do. Um, so that's also a huge one in my pregnant clients where they're like, oh, I could keep crunching. I feel fine. And it's like, well, even though you feel fine, this is a place where we need to be aware of that separating the same way you did that double, triple axle backflip and tore apart because you felt great. It is
Yeah,
like a balance between such a balance between, okay, I actually feel crappy right now and let me sit on the couch. I should go for a walk outside, and the I feel great, let me actually take it a step back and take it easy. So it's constantly finding that middle ground, where we should be during that time.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then do you find that you have other kind of common threads that you're helping a lot of your clients with outside of pregnancy, whether it's after being pregnant or other, or just women who are your clients that maybe they're not moms or wherever they're at in their stage?
Yeah, a lot of it is con- I work with a lot of people on jumping, and I think it's interesting. I've just noticed people about mid 30s, all my clients, then if they haven't been doing it, they've really kind of almost lost that ability or coordination to jump,
Oh,
and
wow.
they don't even realize it. They're like, oh, I can jump up that 2-inch step, and then they go for it and they realize they can't. And that, I think, is one of the biggest things, or even jumping off of a step and learning how to take that impact into the ankles. And that's how you'll twist an ankle or injure yourself. So that's a big one that I think people aren't being super cognizant of as they work out. And just even doing squat jumps is maybe a super important thing. And learning how to take the impact, not just landing super hard on your ankles. And yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that. That makes so much sense because I'm not currently a trainer, I'm not doing what you're doing, right? Like I'm spending time mostly doing Frexy right now and like clothing design and business stuff. But I do have friends who will come and work out with me. I have friends that I've kind of helped through their process of learning how to lift, not formally as a trainer, but just, going to the gym together and they'll ask me questions, come and doing it longer and that sort of thing. And now that you say it, I'm like, yeah, if we put box jumps in, I'm like, I will be up on the highest or you can turn and I'm just like jumping
Mhm.
up and down. I'm not, it's not to pump myself up, but I'm like, it's just something I've done all along. So I don't think
Yeah.
of it as a thing. And then, if you just go to the first height, because there's like the three options on a box, I don't even remember what the heights are, but even just the first height, I didn't realize, oh, that's pretty high for a lot of people who haven't been jumping. And then when you
Oh
think
yeah.
about like the weekend warrior injuries, right? Now they're playing with their kids at the playground and they just jump off, a platform on the playground and their
Yeah.
body, their knees and their ankles, like you said, are not ready for that. I feel like most people don't think of that, or like a lot of
Yeah,
people.
I've seen a million times too. They're like, oh, like 99% of people after age 30 will never sprint again, which I think is similar to the jumping, where you just won't move at fast speeds anymore and be able to take impact on your legs, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, that's kind of sad actually. I didn't know that stat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I don't know where it came from, but
if you hear this, you said over 30 or over
yeah, over age 30, 99% of people will never sprint again.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, if you hear this and you're over 30, go outside and sprint. Just don't hurt yourself
Like hell sprinting.
and jump on and off something. You don't want to lose that. Come on.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So tell us a little bit more about your workout programs then. Like, what can people expect if they're listening to this and they want to reach out to you for programming or as to have you as their trainer? I know you said you do some online, you do some in person. You said you're in
Yep.
LA, right?
Yep. I'm
Are you
in
in LA?
Los Angeles. Yep.
Okay, I'm coming there so you can
West
train me
Hollywood.
more.
Yeah, you should. But I do I try and keep my programs as well rounded as possible. I do like to individualize them and help people with specific imbalances and things that they have issues with. But I like to keep them well rounded because I really do think there's benefit from every single type of fitness, whether that's Pilates or CrossFit, all these different things people really like to say, like, oh, I like this type of fitness. And it's not that there's anything wrong with that type, but it's going to be missing the broader picture. So I love to pull from all these different types of ways people like to work out. And the more well rounded you are in all these different various types of things, the more functional of a person you're going to be. So a lot of times I'll be like, okay, well, you're interested in doing pull ups and push ups and all this stuff. Let's focus on the calisthenics side. And that'll be our main focus. And now, oh, we've tackled that. Let's now try and go more into the powerlifting, heavy super strength training side. And as they kind of accomplish goal to goal, they'll be like, oh, wow, I'm feeling so good and so capable in all these various ways of moving. And I didn't know. I kind of feel like a superhuman. Like I feel like I can do anything, which is awesome because that's the way you really do want to feel. You want to feel like, okay, like I'm not just the best at this one thing, but I am pretty damn good at all these other various things.
I like that. It's cool to be able to switch it up too. I've always thought of workouts as such a creative space. So it's like
Yeah.
there are the people who are like they're dragging their butts to the gym and they hate it, or they're like they have a home gym and they're like I don't want to get up and use it, right? Like I get that. That can be like a huge mental challenge for a lot of people. I've always found the shift of like letting myself be creative with my movement is just another expression of creativity. So it's cycling in different things, like you said. It's like, yeah, well, I like powerlifting. I like some Olympic lifting. And so, oh, let's do a CrossFit style workout. I just did. I'm like, hey, we're going to switch it up. I'm going to do this 21-day calisthenics challenge. I want to learn how to do muscle ups. I can do, my problem is I do them more like gymnastics. There's like this thing called a kip. And it's like my
Oh, yeah,
body
yeah.
just wants to do a gymnastics kip, which is actually different timing than a
Oh,
muscle
that's
up.
interesting. I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
Well,
I thought they were the same.
a kip is like
A kip up.
you flick your feet all the way to the bar and then pop up. So technically your
Oh,
feet
I
aren't supposed
see.
to go above the bar, right? Because you're using more momentum that way. And so I'm in the middle of like just for fun. I'm like, okay, I got to retrain myself and see if I can do it this other way.
A
Well, why
strict
not?
muscle up.
Right? Yeah, because
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
the challenge, like if you challenge yourself and you allow yourself to have fun with it, like, ooh, what do I want to learn? Like I remember being a little kid when I learned my first cartwheel, I literally did it thousands of times on the front yard over and over and over again. And it's like we become adults and we forget that.
Oh, yeah. No, what you're saying is so true because the people who do get bored with their workouts are the ones who've been doing the same exact thing for 10 years straight. And they're like, I don't feel like doing chest presses and single arm rows again. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
how about we just learn a new skill? Let's focus on something else fun. Yeah, like just learning how to do a handstand. And yeah, you might just practice that the whole 40 minutes, but that's great and different and you're training yourself in a new way. So I think that's really important. Yeah. Not just like I'm saying being well rounded physically, but the mental aspect as well.
Yeah, it makes such a big difference. I love that. Well, is there anything else that you want to share before we wrap up today? Like any other tips and tricks? No, advice?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only thing I'll say is be uh flexible and adapt your training plan. I think, like we were just saying, like if it's getting boring or if you're just getting good at something, you might want to keep doing the same thing if you're super great at it and you're like, I'm not so good at that. I don't want to do that. But kind of move away from what you're used to or what you're comfortable in and do the things that are hard, make your body adapt to a new variable you put into it. And that could be through something really small. Instead of doing dual DB shoulder press, do single arm, something unilateral, just to change it up. Just, yeah, for that physical and mental benefit for both.
Yeah, it's like choose your hard, right?
Oh, yeah.
Getting outside your comfort zone, letting yourself have fun with it, and connecting with someone who can help you. This Josie was here today. She's a great resource. So go find her on Instagram, check her details in the show notes. And thank you so much for being here today. I hope that you guys share the show and that you got lots of value out of it. Make sure you rate it, review it. And hey, if you haven't clicked the subscribe button, now's your chance. And in the meantime, be free, feel fresh, and live on fire.